Here we go. Welcome to the GRadulting Workshop Series. My name is Debbie McCutsky, and I am the Coordinator of Services and Programs for Graduate Student Legal Aid. I use she, her pronouns. I'm being assisted today by Simone Durham. She is one of our grad student advocates. Thank you, Simone. And this workshop is for our student entrepreneurs. The topic of the day is all about starting a business. So before we talk about that, let's talk about legal aid just for a second. Because this workshop is sponsored by Legal Aid, and in a nutshell, we're here to help you. We provide these workshops, 10 every semester, but we're here to help you if you have a legal issue, if you have a legal immigration issue, if you get charged by the Office of Student Conduct, if you need a notary, and we're here to help in all kinds of situations. And if for some reason we are unable to assist you, we can refer you to folks who can. So if you paid your graduate student fee, then you've already paid for our services. So all you have to do is reach out, check out our website, send us an email, call our office. We don't want you to struggle. We want to help you. So just take a look at our website. It will tell you all about our services and how to request an appointment. And you can sign up for our weekly briefing. That'll give you a reminder about our services and upcoming workshops. So just a little bit more housekeeping. Automatic closed captioning has been enabled. So if you want to read along, you may do so. Near the end of the workshop, we'll post a link to a survey because we need your feedback. We will email links to the survey, the recording, and later today to everyone who registered. So we'll also share the slides from the speaker. And finally, we want to hear your questions throughout the workshop. So if you have a question, you can place it in the chat. You can raise your hand and we will, I know our speaker will do her best to answer that. So now on to the speaker. I am so pleased to welcome back and introduce our speaker. Her name is Alla McCoy, and she is the Director of Startup Support for Ventures. She joined Ventures in 2013. And prior to that, she worked at University of Maryland's Dignam Center for Entrepreneurship. And prior to that, she spent 8 years in the publishing industry. She completed her MBA right here at the Robert H. Smith School of Business. And so she is all about Maryland. She too is all about helping students. And Alla, I can't thank you enough for being here with us today. It's good to see you again. So I will turn things over to you now.
Well, thank you so much, Debbie, for such a warm introduction. And thank you, Simone, for facilitating the workshop. I apologize that we had to switch this to Zoom. I caught a cold and didn't want to pass it to anyone, so felt it safer to do it on Zoom, and apologize if I sneeze or anything like this during the workshop. But at least it's, I'm not sharing anything other than my slides with you at this point. So we don't have a whole lot of people in the room. So if you want to, you can turn your cameras on, or you don't have to, but you can, please feel free to stop me anytime. Since there's not a whole lot of you, I can customize what I talk about. Please feel free to submit your questions or comments in the chat. And I'll be happy to stop and answer them if there's anything that's not clear. I have a lot of material prepared. We'll see how much we can spend. If you want to spend a little bit more time on one topic rather than other, please do let me know. So again, happy to customize this workshop for you. Starting a business at the University of Maryland. If you are here, you probably are interested in doing that. And luckily, you are at a great place, at a great university to do so. University of Maryland has very rich innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem, and these are just some of the resources available. There are others that are not listed here, but you can see there's a lot of different support systems, support groups. And Debbie, you mentioned that you love watching Shark Tank. Did you know that we actually have an angel group here, right here on campus, operated by Damon Center for Entrepreneurship at the Business School. They meet monthly and they watch presentations by regional startups. So even that is available live here at the University of Maryland. There also are a lot of funding opportunities, over $1 million available to qualified startups. I won't go in detail about each of these specific opportunities in this workshop, but we do have specific workshops dedicated in talking about different funding opportunities. But you can see it's a lot of money, a lot of funding available. And not surprisingly, with all of the resources and funding, University of Maryland is top 10 for entrepreneurship and innovation among public universities. So again, you're curious about starting a company, you're in the right place to do so. Now, the first question you should ask yourself, and you should answer mostly to yourself, is why are you interested in starting a company? What are your reasons? And feel free to chime in. So if students in the audience, feel free to put it in chat what your reason is, or if you'd like to raise your hand, we can unmute your mics and you can say that, but you don't have to. So some of the reasons that people cite why they're interested in starting their own business is pursue your passion. You have something you are very passionate about, and you would like to make that your lifelong endeavor. You would start a business around it. Lots of people say they would like to be their own boss. That's another great reason. Build an organization of your dreams. Maybe you saw other organizations and they were not run well, or maybe you have a better way, a vision for a better organization. You can create your own organization with a company culture that you love. That's another great reason. You're interested in solving maybe a big problem. You have maybe unique skills that you would like to apply, and they would be better showcased if you have your own company rather than working for another company. You are interested in making lots of money. It's another very good reason to do so. Or you're interested in creating jobs for your community, either your local community here or maybe a remote community, maybe in a developing country where people don't have access to a market and you would like to provide that for them, or maybe in local community here as well. All these, and there are many, many other reasons. If you have any, please chime in. But there are other reasons to start the company. But it's really important that you have that thought process and that conversation with yourself is why do you want to start your own company rather than go work for somebody else or an existing company? Really important to understand what your motivation is, because startups are really, really hard. And then the next question to kind of think about is, what kind of business are you trying to build? What kind of company are you envisioning? And so the main distinctions here to think about is it going to be a high growth startup or a lifestyle business? And the big difference is, so high growth startup is a newly formed company with very quickly and highly scalable business model. It's very easy to grow it fast. It's positioned to acquire a large market share quickly and grow revenues to 5 million plus within the next 5 to 8 years, depending on industry, of course. Some may take longer, some may make more money or less money, really important to remember is that high growth startups are the ones that are positioned for either acquisition or IPO. So you're not building this company necessarily for yourself. You're building it to create a product, create a service, create market share, prove that it works, and usually it's going to be acquired by a larger company. Or depending on market conditions, there could be an IPO, which stands for initial public offering. It is very rare that the same founder, the same CEO who started the company and grew it from small to this high growth startup stays with the company through acquisition and after the IPO. Happens, but very rarely. One example would be a local company, Under Armour. So Kevin Plank was the original CEO. He grew the company. He took it public, and he stayed the CEO for many years. He very recently stepped down as the CEO, and Under Armour now has a new CEO. But that's a very rare case of when that does happen. In most cases, even if you are the original CEO and then if you stay with a company, usually once the company reaches a certain level, a certain size, a new CEO usually comes in to take over because it requires very different skill set, which are really hard to learn on the go. Now, lifestyle business on the other side, it's a company with, and also to add, high growth startups are the ones that investors like venture capitalists and angel investors like Shark Tank people will invest in a high growth startup. They won't invest in a lifestyle business. So lifestyle business, it's a company with business model that's difficult, maybe not meant to scale quickly, and it's also not meant to be sold right away. It could be, for example, it could be a chef-centric restaurant. So there's a chef with a very specific set of skills, and that chef has to be in the restaurant daily or almost daily to make sure things happen the way that he or she, the recipe is developed a certain way. Or it could be, it's an example, it could be a hair salon, spa, photo studio, art gallery, small consulting firm. So it's a business. It's called lifestyle because you keep it as your business, you operate it. There's absolutely nothing wrong choosing between high growth and a lifestyle company. It depends on what is it that you're trying to build. An organically grown company, it's a business that is financing its growth solely through its own revenues and not taking any outside financing. It's very difficult to build a high growth startup without taking in outside investment. So most of them would not be organically grown, but it is possible. One example of such company is Dyson. So Dyson grew to a very large company without taking any outside financing. That's an important question to answer. The next question to answer is, what skills do you have? Are you a scientist and you bring technological skills? Do you have business skills? Do you know how to sell? Do you have leadership skills? Do you know how to build a team? So it's important these all are really important to build a successful company. So it's really important to understand what skills you have and what skills you don't have. And maybe you need to supplement the skills that you don't have. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in the presentation. So startups, I said that before, I'll say that again. Startups are really, really hard. You are your own boss, but you also are responsible for everything. And as your boss, you may be your hardest boss on yourself. And the reason is startups are hard, they require a lot of work, and they fail a lot. So here are top reasons why startups fail. I hope you can see the slide, but a lot of people think that I have this great product, it works really well, and therefore, or it works really well, my technology is great, therefore my company is going to be successful. But in real life, if you look at the top reasons why startup fail, poor product is actually number 6. So great product is not necessarily doesn't mean that your startup is going to be a success, because you might have a great product, but it might be priced too high. Your manufacturing costs are so high that you have to charge a much higher price for your product, and there's not enough market share willing to pay the price. There might be somebody who developed a similar product that maybe doesn't do everything that your great and excellent product does, but people don't necessarily need all the bells and whistles, and they would rather pay less money. It might be that you have a great technology at a great price, but your team isn't necessarily well-rounded, and you might have great technologists on your team, but you don't have anybody who knows how to set up distribution, for example, for your product, or doesn't know how to read contracts and how to negotiate a good contract, or how to sell your product. So having the right team, and I'll repeat that again, is really, really important. A well-rounded team is really, really important. And number 1 reason why startups fail is because they make a product that nobody wants to buy, or maybe not enough people want to buy. So making sure that you sell or you make what people want, and able to sell it at the price that they can afford, is really important. And so how do you do that? And it's not as easy. It sounds easy, just make stuff people want, but it's actually not very easy, especially if you're making something that's that requires a lot of technology and a lot of understanding of how that works. So how do you make sure that you sell stuff that people want? You need to go through a process called customer discovery. So customer discovery is a process of creating a hypothesis of who your customers are. Who do you think wants your stuff? Why do you think they are? What are they willing to pay for your product? Why? How much? How would they pay for your product? How would they interact with your product and service? When would they buy it? How long would they use it? So you make all of these hypotheses around all of that, and then you test your hypothesis through a series of customer discovery interviews and meetings. So you say, I think these are my customers, and then you actually set up a meeting and you talk to them and ask them a series of questions about trying to get information. We have a program here on campus called ICOR, that it's a 2-week program where they teach you how to actually do that, because it's not as easy as it sounds. So you can either do it on your own, you don't have to go through the program, or you can apply. It's a very competitive program, so you have to apply to be able to participate. It's free, but it's not everybody is accepted into it. So if you're interested, please check out the ICOR website to see when the next cohort will be launching. And so when you're talking to your customers, when you're doing your customer discovery, it's really important to understand what your value proposition is. So value proposition is a statement explaining why would your customers want to buy or use your product or service. And usually value proposition is centered around better, cheaper, faster, and also what is it that your product or service is accomplishing. So if you look at this ad on my slide, it's an ad that advertising a drill that drills a drill bit that can drill into the concrete. And you can see there's the actual drill bit there, but there's also this other little piece that helps to stabilize the drill because the concrete is really hard. And all of that is really nice. But of all of you sitting in the audience and looking at this drill, would you buy it because it's the drill bit is made out of certain metal, or because it has this other stabilizing bar, or because of any of the technical characteristics of the drill? Or would you buy it because you need a hole in that concrete wall? So understanding that people don't buy drill or drill bit, they buy a hole in the wall. That's what you buy. And you couldn't care less about all the physical characteristics and technical characteristics of that drill bit, and the fact that it has this other things that how it accomplishes, you couldn't care less. If there was another product on the market that could make that hole in the wall cheaper, better, or faster, you would buy that instead of this drill bit. Because again, you're not buying the drill, you're buying the hole in the wall. So trying to understand and get to what is your hole in the wall that people are going to be buying, and why, and who are those people, that's really, really important. So again, understanding, trying not to sell the drill, but trying to sell the hole in the wall is really important. And to go in even further, of all of you in the audience, many of you probably looking at this and you couldn't care less about the drill or the hole in the wall because you don't have a concrete wall where you need to drill a hole. I don't. So I couldn't care less about this. And so you're not the right customer segment for this. So understanding who the people are who would care about this, because there are people who would care about this, is really important. Oops, I'm gone. And here we come to customer segments. So understanding who will care, who wants your hole in the wall, is really important. And this is where you would start breaking down customers into customer segments. A lot of times I talk to researchers, students, and they think I have this great technology and everybody's going to want it. Well, the reality is not everybody is going to want your technology or your product or your service. There are people who will want it for specific reasons, and you need to understand who they are. And the more you know about your customers, the better off you are, because you can target your marketing and sales efforts and get to your customers in a much more efficient way. So your customer segments are a group of customers who share a defined set of characteristics. And this illustration talks about geographic, demographic, psychographic, behavioral. There might be others. Not all of them might be relevant to what you're trying to sell. And you may not need to know everything about your customers. If you're selling, again, drill bits, it doesn't matter what religion or what, geography they're from, because they just need a drill bit. If you're selling books about Catholicism, that may be more relevant, but other Other characteristics may not be relevant. So understanding what demographic characteristics are relevant to you, and collecting information to understand who your customer segments are. Then each of the segments will have their own characteristics and a way of being approached and served. So that's really important. And that's another thing that they will teach you, or they teach you how to do that in ICOR. Again, understanding who your customers are and understanding that not everybody is going to be your customer is really important. And then you have to talk about business model. So business model is, how does your business plan to create, manufacture, create, and deliver the product or service to your customer segments, to the customers or users? How's your business plan to finance the operations and generate profit if you're a for-profit company? Or how are you going to finance daily operations if you're a nonprofit? So it's really important if you're starting a nonprofit to understand that, yes, you do need to worry about revenues because you're going to have to finance your operations somehow. So really important to think about, where is that financing going to come from? And so in ICOR, they use business model canvas, and this is a layout of business model canvas that helps you think through business model. So you first think about, what is your value proposition? What is your hole in the wall that you're trying to sell? Who are your customer segments? So who cares? Who needs that hole in the wall? Then you think about how are you going to let them know that you have that hole in the wall to sell? So that's your customer channels. How are you going to keep relationship with your customers? How are you going to make, produce, or deliver your product or service? How are you going to sell it and such? And what is your cost structure? So how much is it going to cost you to produce and manufacture your product or service and deliver it? And also, what does your revenue look like? Who are your key partners? So these are all key pieces of the business model. And there are many different types of business models that you probably heard of. So these are some of the most common ones. So B2B, or business to business, your customers are other businesses. So for example, Boeing makes airplanes and sells them to airlines. We work here in College Park. So it's a business that rents space to other businesses. So it's B2B. E2C, your customers are individuals. So for example, Under Armour sells apparel and shoes. Nestle sells food products directly to customers. Some, especially bigger businesses, have both. They have B2B arm and they have B2C arm. Subscription business model, services or products are sold on a subscription basis, weekly, monthly, annual, for example. Very popular these days. A lot of companies are switching to subscription models, and some of them are, customers are not happy about that, but it's been very popular because it generates passive revenue for companies. The reason it's very popular is because the company needs to get you once, and then don't necessarily have to market to you. And then, especially if subscription is not very expensive, people forget to cancel it. And so there's a lot of this recurring revenue that comes through subscription that you otherwise wouldn't get. So software as a service, or SaaS, is a variation of a subscription service, basically, but just for software. But you'll hear that. Investors love subscription type companies because, again, it's very lucrative and profitable. Another business model that you could think of is freemium and premium. So you offer your basic service for free, and then you charge for additional features. Usually, again, this happens in with software type businesses. For example, LinkedIn, you can get that for free, or LinkedIn Premium, you have to pay extra. Or Crunchbase, there's a free version of it. And if you want extra information, you get it you have to pay for it. Another popular business model is razor blade model, or also another name for it is loss leader model. You sell fixed part of equipment at a cost or even below cost, and then charge for recurrent supplies. Many of you probably work in labs where you have lab equipment that you got for not a whole lot of money, but then you have to keep paying for consumables, for supplies, and that's where the company makes money. Printer ink and cartridges. So you buy a printer very cheaply, but then ink is one of the most expensive liquids in the world, because they charge premium for it, and each printer has its own specific cartridge. So you have to buy that specific cartridge to go into your printer. And there are many other models, but that's another way to make money. Platforms and marketplace is another business model that became very popular in the early 2000s, when you offer opportunity to others to use your platforms to make or sell the products or services. So one great example is Amazon.com. They started out as a bookstore, then they added other things to the store, and then they opened up that platform. Once they built up a way of selling and distributing the product, delivering the product to customers, they have these huge warehouses, delivery trucks and such. So they open up that platform to others to use them as the marketplace. Other examples are Apple Developer, iTunes, Magic Leap, Microsoft Azure. They give you developer kits, and you can develop apps, games, and put it on that platform to sell. And so these are just, there are other business models. So you can think about what your, how are you planning to operate your company, your business, what makes sense for you. And there are other ways of thinking about it. And then, of course, I touched upon it very briefly at the very beginning. Building the right team, and a strong team is really, really important and a key to your startup. It's even more important than having a great technology. And I can't repeat that enough. The right team makes or breaks the company. So first and foremost, your team should have complementary knowledge, skills, and abilities. So if you have 3 programmers and they're great programmers, that's great, but that's you're missing skills on your team. You need to attract people who also know how to do financial projections, how to make PowerPoint presentations, how to sell a product, and such. So really important to get people with diverse backgrounds, diverse perspectives, and diverse and complementary knowledge and skills. So also would mention that hiring your friends may not be the best idea. But if you do, make sure that everybody is on the same page in terms of who's going to do what are the expectations, and what would happen if somebody isn't performing according to the expectations. So setting boundaries and rules really early may help prevent. Having these conversations really early and from the beginning would help prevent a lot of conflict and misunderstanding and hurt feelings down the line. Take a look, assess the knowledge and skill gaps on your team. So if you currently have, if it's just you, what skills that you are lacking, or if you have a team of people, what skills you're lacking, what background that you lack and what perspectives that you lack, and aim to fill the gap and need. However, it's important that team members have at least a way of working together well, and understanding each other, or at least be willing to work with each other. Think about what type of company culture you're trying to build, and it's really up to you. You're looking to have a very formal company culture, very open company culture. It's really important, and it would attract certain people to the team, or maybe not attract certain people to the team. But it's really important that it gels with your unique personality. And then really important, especially at the very beginning, and especially if you are new to the startup world, surround yourself by great advisors. Nobody is born an entrepreneur. Everybody is running or trying to open their first company at some point. The difference is, make sure that you have a great advisory team. And you at the University of Maryland, you're in the right place, where there are entrepreneurs in residence, there are lots of advisors. Ask questions, take advantage of the resources that are around you. Make connections with people in the industry. A lot of times you'll find out that more experienced and successful entrepreneurs are very much willing to share their knowledge. You may get a no, you may get a pushback, but you'll never know unless you ask. So reach out, ask questions, keep going back for more questions, and listen to the advice. You don't have to take every piece of advice that comes your way, but it's important to consider, because make sure that you're not reinventing the wheel, and make sure that you're not making rookie mistakes from the get-go. And then, of course, when you are registering your company, I'll just very briefly go through common corporate structures that exist. So when you're registering your company, you can register it as a sole proprietorship. Owner is personally liable, and owner's assets may be used to pay company's debts. Usually, sole proprietorship, it's just one person. Maybe you are offering yoga classes, or something that's like not a company that's not meant to grow really big beyond one person. That's when we would do that. It's very easy to set up. Next step up is limited liability corporation. The big difference here is that owner is not personally liable for the debts or any other liability. So the company, the LLC, can only be sued, and only the LLC's assets can be a target, not your personal assets. So it's LLC is a preferred way of setting it up from the get-go. However, company finances flow through the owner's personal finances, and when you file your tax return, or you basically would consider whatever income or loss from the LLC would go on your personal tax return. The next step up is corporation. So both liability and personal finances are separated from the owners. So corporation it's considered like a separate person. Usually when you accept outside financing from investors, they will ask you to convert your LLC into a corporation. There's a lot more legal work to set up a corporation. So usually at the very beginning, companies set up as an LLC. It's very easy. You pay $100 to get it registered. When you're ready, corporation takes more work. But again, as your company grows, at some point it makes sense to set it up as a corporation. The big difference there is that finances are also separate. So corporation files its own tax return. And so whatever proceeds from that you take, and you as the owner also have to declare that as your income and pay another set of taxes. So there's the double taxation issue there, but in many cases, it's not that simple, and you really need a corporation when things get very complicated and there are multiple owners, investors, and such. And then, of course, there are nonprofit organizations. So nonprofit is an organization that's organized for public or social benefit. It's subject to non-distribution constraint, meaning that whatever profit that company makes cannot go back to the owners. It has to stay within the nonprofit and spent on the nonprofit mission. And there are other variations. Debbie can probably tell you more about it. There are other variation. There are low profit organizations where some profit can go back to the owners. And there are others, there's several different types of corporations, for example, and such. But that's something you can discuss later as you actually go into the details to see what makes sense. But these are the 4 basic corporate structure types. And then you have to think about regulatory issues. So you may need you will always need a business license in the location where your company is operating. For example, if you have a Delaware LLC and you are trying to do business in Maryland, you have to apply for foreign business license to do business in Maryland. You have to have insurance, probably several types of insurance. If you have a building where your company is physically occupying, you need to have certificate of occupancy. You may need to have licenses and certifications within your field, and you can find those out on the web from the Commerce Department. On the state of Maryland actually has a way you put in what type of business you're trying to open, and they will tell you what licenses and certifications you need. You think about export control issues. You can't easily export and import certain things between countries. Some products are export controlled. You may need to deal with that. It's also important to think about safety plan for your company, especially if you deal with equipment, chemicals, and such. You need to have a safety officer within your company who understands how to handle that. And also OSHA, which is Occupational Safety and Health Administration. So there needs to be occupational safety and health for your employees. There may be other regulatory issues if you're selling something that has any kind of medical claims, for example. You may not need a clearance from the FDA. So make sure that you understand the regulatory landscape for what you're trying to do, and don't forget about that. Now, if you are a graduate student, and you are trying to take the research that you're developing in the lab here at the University of Maryland, there's a structured help and support behind that. You can find out more at startupguide.umd.edu, but it basically follows what I was discussing, including starting with IP, intellectual property protection. You would do customer discovery through ICOR, and then there's grant funding available that would allow you to actually start working on your company even before you graduate. Form the company. There's a way to get space and additional funding to get your product developing, and we also have several investment funds available to startups. We also have Startup Fundamentals Workshop Series, various workshops on market research, sales, marketing, how to pitch, raise capital, and such. If you visit this URL, it's still live. I need to update it, but this still works. You'll see upcoming workshops for each upcoming month. They're free on Zoom. And we also have Startup UMD YouTube channel. You can browse the channel on YouTube at your leisure as well. And now I was talking about importance of surrounding yourself with advisors. We have a great lineup of entrepreneurs in residence. So these are all successful entrepreneurs. You can see some of the companies they've started. They each have very diverse backgrounds, very diverse perspectives. And they are available to you for free. We pay them, so they're not expecting you to give them any part of your company or any payment. So this is free to you. Please do, there's the URL. You can take a look at the different backgrounds and pick one or two or maybe three to sign up and talk to about your business idea, whether it's in the idea stage or you're trying to do something and run into problems. So they could be your business mentors. And, in the end, just wanted to close with some of the examples of successful startups led by graduate students. So this is a startup. Some of you may know Dr. Ginger Jin, Dr. Ben Peterson. The graduate student actually that led the startup was MBA student from UCLA. Would love to see some of our MBA students stepping up. But this is a great success story. It's a software that collects health information or health inspection information from across the country. And if you go on Yelp, you will see the health score powered by Hazel Analytics for restaurants. But the main customers are B2B, where they provide health inspection data to big chain companies. Here's another example. So Dr. Srini Raghavan is a prolific inventor, and he usually empowers his graduate students to take the lead on the startups based on the technologies that they develop together in the lab. So this is one example, Mercura. It's a gel that stops bleeding in seconds. You can buy it at CVS. You can buy it Rapid Seal and on Amazon.com, but if you go to CVS and you buy the CVS brand of that, it's a cream that also stops, it's antibacterial cream that stops bleeding. CVS brand is actually made by Mercura, and they're also working on some surgical products and such, and they already have FDA clearance for that. Led by his PhD student, and later on, the PhD student became the CTO, and they brought in a different CEO, but the PhD student is still leading the company as the CTO. Same professor, very different business, Grip Boost. This one was actually led also by two of his PhD students and a graduate student who was also a student athlete at the University of Maryland, football player. And they developed a gel that restored stickiness to football gloves. And after that, they developed other lineup of products. You can visit Grip Boost to see what they've developed. Again, Dr. Raghavan empowered his students to just run with the technology developed here at UMD in the lab. And this is Evandro Valente. He actually was the master's student who took technology he developed in the lab with his advisor and launched a company called Agility, and then developing drones. You can take a look at their website to see how what they're developing is different. They have customers, they sell products. So these are just some example stories to inspire you. And I will close on that. And I think we still have a few minutes for questions. Please feel free to to throw any questions my way now.
Alla, can you see the chat or do you want me to read the questions to you?
Oh yeah, I can see the chat.
Okay.
I already began my own venture last year and it's progressing in many ways. I'm currently on the lookout for funding and other opportunities to reinforce my startup and make it a high growth business. Do you have any events like this? Do you offer any consultancy services? So we do offer consultancy services. So entrepreneurs and residents, you can connect with them and ask them any questions. Funding depends on if this is a technology that you developed at your university lab, there is more funding available, but if it's not, but it's still technology, there are other funding opportunities. If you can reach out to me, we can set up a time to talk about what type of funding opportunities are more appropriate for you.
Well, it sounds like those entrepreneurs and residents are pretty easily accessible to anyone.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes,
That's
the EIRs are available. Each of them has openings weekly, so you can go in and sign up for the best time that works for you. The meetings are on Zoom. However, once they get to know you, you can request a meeting in person on campus. They'll go to your lab to look at your stuff. So
Right.
they're very easily accessible and they're very happy to work with students.
So it's not just restricted to one meeting. It can be an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. It should be an ongoing thing. Yes.
All right. Well, Grace, we hope that's helpful to you. And to sign up for that, is that on the UM Ventures website?
It is. Here's the link.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I will circulate the slides, and the slides also have the link. So the funding opportunity, Grace, since there are no more questions, I can take a few minutes to talk a little bit about that. So if it is something that you developed in the lab with sponsored research funding, it would belong to the university, but that would also open funding opportunities through Maryland Innovation Initiative that will give, you can apply to receive $115,000 for a 9-month project. You can stay at the university if you're graduating, for example. You can stay at the university for 9 months and as a postdoc and get salary from that money, or that can also finance your PhD salary as well. And so it's 9 months, and you can use University of Maryland lab equipment, work with your advisor. If it's not University of Maryland technology, you can apply for Maryland Industrial Partnerships grant, and that provides also a great amount of funding to do the further R&D. We can talk about that more if you are interested. There's a question, is this support available to UMD alum as well? So entrepreneur and residents support, yes, it is available. Startup fundamentals workshops are available to anyone who wants to join. So EIRs are available to alums. Certain funding opportunities are available to alums as well. So MII is not, but MIPS, Maryland Industrial Partnerships, is available to alums as well. And certain investment funds such as Momentum Fund, Terrapin Fund that's being launched right now, Quantum Startup Foundry, all of that is available. But
if an advisor felt like one of those funds was appropriate, they're aware of them and would recommend those?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, great. Okay.
And I also recommend that you guys visit Startup Guide. And it will take you through the process kind of step by step. There are links, more information about each step. I-Core is available to alums as well, by the way. So the 2-week customer discovery program, you can apply.
Mhm.
So,
Any other questions? Any other ideas you want to share? Right. It's quiet. People are thinking and they see all the resources and all the money that's available to them. Thank you so much for reminding us of what's available. There are so many resources for so many different situations, right, Alla?
absolutely. So like I said, if you have, if you want to try, dip your toe, you can. You're in the right place to do so.
Right, right. Well, if folks want to contact you directly, could they do that, or would you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Here's
Okay,
my email address.
that'd be great. All right, well, we will share all of your resources after the workshop in our post-workshop email. So folks should watch out for that. Alla, thank you so much. It is always good to get that broad brush experience and see what it really does take to start a business. And you did such a great job of
Thank you.
reminding us all those elements that go into starting a business. I want to thank everybody who joined us on Zoom today. And again, we apologize. We had to convert the last minute to Zoom, but such is life, right? But it was good for us to spend some time together. I hope to see you, at least our international students, on March 28th. That's our next workshop on life after F1, J1. So please take a minute to complete the post-workshop survey and have a good week.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. You're welcome.
You're welcome.